you know, fear is still, that's a part of my life. I want to talk, go around like in colleges or like in seminars and talk about this. This is a story people in young generation has to hear and interact with the
You,
people with their questions. You know what I mean?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, you're right. They need to hear this story because it's a courageous one, and I don't, like was saying earlier, I don't think the younger generation understands what it's like to live on under what you were living.
Too many people
Let's
died for that freedom. Too many people
that's
died for that freedom. Too many people
yeah,
injured for that freedom. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Maybe now they say we shouldn't have done, but at least something they should have on both sides, Iraqis and like
sure.
Americans. Too many people, so they have to have respect for the lives and the suffering of all these people who worked to get that freedom.
Eagle 6, Sabre 06, spot report over.
Hey y'all, how you doing? Steve Schiller here. I'm your host for the podcast Sabre06, the Debrief. Welcome. We're glad you're here. I'm with my co-host Kelly Blaine. We're partners in our 501c3 World Voice Project. Today we have Hakeem Salim with us, and we're very happy to have you here, Hakeem. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. A quick intro. How do we get the name Sabre06, a Debrief? Sabre06 was my call sign when we invaded Iraq in 2003, where Hakeem and I met. It was my call sign for the entire year. I was the commander at 217 Cav, and we essentially flying for the 101st Airborne all the way up the Karbala Gap, all the way up to Mosul when we did the invasion. And that's where Hakeem and I met up. The debrief essentially comes from what we call post-mission discussion about what went right and what went wrong with our missions. And the analogy we're trying to use with respect to World Voice Project with the debrief is we capture stories and we capture things that military folks did in combat or otherwise, and those stories we find compelling and necessary to be told. And the debrief is our ability to capture those stories and let other folks know exactly what happened to some of our military members. So that's where we got the name. It's an important aspect of what we did in military operations so we could learn lessons about the missions that we were doing. So that's kind of where we got the name, and want to make sure you understood about our sponsors today. We've got 3 sponsors. World Voice Project is sponsoring this entire podcast. Our other 2 sponsors are Fjord Films and Precision Air Power. And we thank our sponsors for what they've been doing to keep this podcast going. So with that, wanted to jump right into Hakeem and what he did. I want to do a little bit more introduction on Hakeem. Hakeem and I met in, again, 2003. We had essentially went up through numerous cities on Najaf, Karbala, Al-Hilal, Baghdad, before General Petraeus pushed us all the way up to Mosul and wanted us to get up to the Mosul area. And that's where Hakeem and I met. And at the time, we needed an interpreter to interact with Iraqi nationals that we were hoping to serve once we were up in and around Mosul. Hakeem, I can't remember the exact moment we met, but I do know that it's been a lasting one. Now it's almost 20 years that we've
20
been
years.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we hit it off immediately. I think Hakeem definitely set a spark in me to know an Iraqi as well as I ended up knowing Hakeem. This is even before our year was up. We became very good friends. What I appreciate about Hakeem was he spoke impeccable English, which is what we were looking for at the time, as somebody who not only had the ability to speak English, but had the ability to understand the nuance between how Americans are and how we operate, and how Iraqis at the time were and how they operate. And that's what I was looking for, was an intelligent person who understood those nuance. And Hakeem brought that to the table. So today for our podcast, what we want to do is we want to break this down in 3 areas. We want to first talk about Hakeem's life before the invasion. In segment 2, we want to talk about Hakeem's life during the invasion. And then the third part is we want to talk about what we're trying to achieve with Hakeem in the future. I want to bring in Kelly, my co-host. Kelly and I were introduced to each other in Salt Lake City about 7 years ago. Kelly was formulating a new organization called Fjord Films, which is one of our sponsors. And her partner, Nav Tuttle, were very interested at the time in capturing stories, and specifically capturing military stories. Kelly kind of presented to me the idea of coming on board with them in their nonprofit and propagating military stories and capturing military stories, veterans specifically. Long story short, that's kind of how we came together. And since then, we've formulated World Voice Project and the Hero Heroes program under World Voice. Kelly, what do you think?
I think we're living the dream. We're doing exactly what I wanted to do. Because at the end of the day, I don't want little Johnny who likes to sound smart or who writes textbooks or who wants to get elected to tell me what the two of you saw and lived. I want you two to tell me what you saw and lived. I don't want it changed.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we do at Hero Heroes and World Voices. We capture those stories directly from the source. It's not filtered through some journalist and their view of what they think you saw. So with that, Hakeem, we'd like to jump right into it. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, where you came from, and kind of how you became a military colonel in the Iraqi Air Force?
Well, how you doing, guys? Again, my life started. I was born in Mosul. Everybody knows Mosul now. And from Mosul, we have moved because my father was a police officer. So we moved to Baghdad. And I lived most of my life until 16 years old in Baghdad, like my, elementary and until I think the 7th class or 8th class. Then we moved to Ramadi because my father was in Baghdad. He was like the chief of a police academy for the whole of Iraq. And then he became the chief of police of Anbar province. So we had to move to Anbar from there. And I completed my secondary school in Ramadi. And then I got like in medical school, but I couldn't. So there was like some kind of Air Force are sending people to England to study for avionics and aerospace design. So I passed the exam from the people like who was chosen to go to England, and I was stationed in a town called Woking, south of London, for about like 2 years. I studied my A levels and then went to Queen Mary College, University of London, completed my education in aerospace design and avionics engineering. Afterwards, that we returned to Iraq. That was like by the end of like the war, like 1987, I think, if I can recall it. And then we started training like to be officers, and went through training to go into like specific aircrafts. They have chosen for me is the Mirage, French aircrafts. I know that Americans don't like the Mirages, but it's the Mirage. So we studied that, moved to base south of Baghdad for like, I think 2 or 3 years. I cannot recall the exact dates, but for that. And then from that, we moved after the 1990 or 1991, the war.
1991. Yeah.
You were in Kuwait, weren't you?
I was, yes.
So
And Iraq.
after that, you destroyed the base. We moved to a base in the north of Iraq, where we met in Kira. It used to be called Saddam's Air Base, which was one of the largest bases in Iraq, in the north of Iraq. So I started my career over there like an officer. I think I was a major over there. I'm not sure. Working on these aircrafts until the invasion was in 2003. Completed over there most of my life.
That's a great background.
Yeah.
So how about you describe what it was like under Saddam Hussein?
It was
before.
I mean, some people think that it was easy living under Saddam Hussein, and until now, I can hear people saying, "Well, it was good under Saddam Hussein." Maybe there was some kind of safety, but this is by force. It was like dictatorship, so he was like forcing people to do anything. You cannot have. I have explained to you before that we cannot watch TV. Only we have 2 channels. And if you have wanted to bring a satellite dish, we have all these like security guys go on above the buildings and see if you have like the satellite dish. And if they catch you, then you go to prison. I don't know how many years, like 10 years, 15 years, honestly, just because of the satellite. And he used to have this like bath party guys. They used to wear like a green, and they were like going everywhere and trying to find like somebody. You cannot even talk inside the house about Saddam Hussein. I mean, honestly, inside the house, because you were scared from your wife, somebody in the house, your neighbors maybe can hear you, or he has bugged your house. So even if we wanted to talk about Saddam inside the family, and you have to have his picture, of course, inside your office, your house. So you just look at him, and everybody understands what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So it was difficult, and especially after we had the times when we had embargo. You know that, because we didn't have like food, we couldn't eat. And we were struggling with the salaries that we were getting. Honestly, I mean, I think I told you, but maybe you didn't believe me. It was like $3 or $4 our salary at that time.
Yeah, it's hard for American like us to believe that you could live on that.
Yeah, I can hear. I mean, some stories now from Americans saying, "Why did we go there?" No, the best thing you have done is coming to Iraq and did this. I mean, at least we I don't care about what happens after, but we had to get rid of this guy. He was like a big dictator, honestly. I mean, I don't know. These people will say, I don't know if they're going to hear it, but it's very difficult for me inside Iraq to say that now, because people now are going back to saying, well, we should have Saddam Hussein now because of what having from these guys now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because number one, I was going to say you have a perspective that many Iraqis don't have. When you go to London and you go to school in London while you're under Saddam, and now you have a level of freedom in London that you've never had before.
Exactly.
And then you finish school, and then you go back to this dictatorship where Saddam has his thumb on everybody and killing a lot of people if they're not compliant. Now you have this perspective that most Iraqis don't have, and you also have a perspective that no Americans really have.
And my father was the chief of police as well, so they think that maybe I could have done anything. No, it was not that. They think it was all under his control. Nobody do anything. I mean, if you do something, it's not like if you did something, you're going to go to prison for 1 day or 2 days. No, you go in prison and your family will never know about you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the dictatorship that we had on that, under his regime.
You said something that kind of is very interesting for Iraqis, because you're saying now Iraqis have this, not all of them, of course, but probably a lot of them now think you should go back under the Saddam regime because life was better. We face the same thing in the U.S. now. Is most U.S. people say the Iraq War was a huge mistake. What's your thought on that? Do you still think it's a huge?
Saddam was saying?
No, of course not.
Even the guys who are saying that now, most of them are young people. They have not experienced what we had. What we had experienced is, especially, because I came in 1987. I think the area at the time before Saddam Hussein was better. I think there was a president called Ahmed Hassan Bakr. Under him, it was like you have more freedom. Some people can talk and things like that. But once he took over, everything changed, Yeah. And as you said, I came from London, and I was, under this freedom. And then I came back, and I faced it because I wanted to finish my master's and PhD, and they didn't allow me. I was one of the 10th people in Community College, one of the 10 people graduate from there, and they told me to come and work with British Airways, and at the same time, stay over there and work and finish your master's and PhD. But I told, there was in charge of us, some kind of officer. I told him, can I please finish my, my. He says, you are dreaming. You just go back and that's it. And I told my father, I cannot come. I don't want to come. I want to stay because I have very good offer and I want to finish my study. He
Sure.
said, son, if you stay, I'll go to prison. And he was chief of, I think he was at that time, yes, and chief of Anbar province. He says, I go to prison if you don't come back. So I came back because of my father. And I suffered all these times, from war, ending of war of Iran. Then he started the war in Kuwait. And then we had these 10 years of hell. Honestly, we lived in hell under that time until the invasion. We couldn't eat, we couldn't drink. You don't have all the facilities or other people are having. Like you don't have the drink, you don't even milk for the babies we didn't have. And at the same time, you have all this force coming from the government, like from Saddam Hussein, and his party. I don't want to say most of, all of them, but most of the people who are in the party was forcing the people so that they don't talk, they don't say anything. like, you have some people shutting your mouth all the time. So that time cannot be felt only from the people who was and on it. You know what I mean?
Right.
The young generation cannot feel that. Maybe they were very young. They heard something, but they didn't feel it. We felt
Right, sure.
I told you when I met you, this is the freedom that I was, looking for, honestly, long time ago.
Amazing story. Can I ask you something else? You don't have to answer it if you don't want, but the big controversy for the Iraq War, and I'm not trying to make this into politics because I don't want to go there, but I think it's important for Americans to understand that we honestly thought that there were weapons of mass destruction under Saddam, and we have a definition for that, whether it be nuclear, biological, or chemical type warfare. We all believe that was the case. Do you know anything about that? Do you think that there was, even if you didn't know for a fact? We know that he used chemicals on his own people back in the early 90s. So do you know anything about that?
Well, in the Army or in the Air Force, you hear things like that. But actually, for me personally, I haven't. But there were some officers who worked with me. They are like senior officers than me. They told me that during the Iraq War, they had these kind of weapons. You know what I mean? And they used to load them into their aircrafts. What happened afterwards, I never saw them. For me,
Yeah.
I never saw them, but I know that the senior officers, they used to tell me about that. And I was, I think, looking with you about that as well.
Yeah. If you remember, Hakeem, and I don't want to get too far ahead into the invasion, but if you remember, you took us around Key West Air Base.
Yes.
And we found, I can't remember the number, it was 20 or 30 buried jets. MiGs, Mirages, all buried in the sand.
Yes.
We ended up unburying those aircraft, and you guys had buried them there so that when we did invade, that we would not blow them all up, that you'd have believing that at some point we go away, you'd have aircraft again. There's a lot of reports that happened with WMD too, and we just never found them. So, whatever the truth is, I don't know, but your story is compelling that you've had Iraqi officers telling you that they were there.
Yes, and I think I told you about other story, but still until recently they told me there is. We don't know. It's hidden somewhere. In the sand. I don't know. They said there's some kind of hangars in the desert.
Yeah. Let's go back a little bit to just pre-invasion. What was it like when you heard that we were on our way to invade? How much heads up did you have? What was life like as far as trying to ensure that you didn't get hit by, some of the American bombing or whatever? What was it like then?
Well, actually, we were stationed in, as I told you, it used to be called Saddam's Air Base, which is Schiller Air Base now. We didn't get hit a lot from Europe because most of the fighting was down south. And we were informed if the Americans going to come and they do some kind of, landing on the base. So we have to fight for them. But I was stationed outside the base, not inside the base. So there are some people inside the base, some people on the road to the base, and some people just next to the town, KR. You remember KR? So I was chosen by the airbase commander to be stationed outside the base near the town. So I didn't get a lot of, most of the, bombing. It was not that much, but it was on the base itself. But but the air base commander before that, they put, I think, in the runway some kind of old trucks on the runway so that nobody can land on the runway. And this is all, precautions. We had some kind of like, we dug some kind of like, what do you call that?
Pits or whatever
pit,
for.
Yeah. So that we can round the base, not for me, for my guys, my officer, the other officers, round the base so that if there was some kind of invasion towards the base or attack on the base by like infantry, they will fight over there. We didn't have bullets anyway. We have only I think 60 bullets.
No way. You didn't even have bullets?
Look, they have given us 2 magazines for the, I think, AK-47, and they are like 30 each, I think, something like that. Yeah. So it's like 60 bullets we have. Afterwards, we say bye-bye.
So how much prep time did you have? I mean, did you kind of have like a couple of months listening to? I mean, you didn't have TV, right? So you couldn't just watch CNN and figure out what was going on.
No, we were watching Saddam Hussein, what he was saying.
And what was he saying, and how far in advance? Was he saying, "Hey, U.S. is coming to get me"?
I don't think he believed that you were coming. Honestly, I don't believe, because he was like talking, or maybe he thought that the people will defend like he expected. But most of the people didn't defend Iraq. Most of the people left. Some defended, and most of them because they wanted to get rid of him. Honestly, that's one of the reasons that. So, because of what they have suffered under him for 30 years, they say, well, I'm going to kill myself for this guy. They didn't believe that again. This is the way to change it, because we had like some kind of jokes before us, like we're going to have like children, grandchildren, and still Saddam Hussein under us. You know what I mean? So my grandson will always see him in the TV, because he used to like go on the TV like every 1 hour, and it stays for 2 hours and 3 hours or something like that, because he goes somewhere and we have to stick him and watch him where he goes, what he do. You know what I mean?
I do, man. That's torture.
Some people don't. I know. If I talk now, it's not like you feel it. Honestly, imagine you are sitting at home. You cannot go out. You don't have food, and you're watching the TV, and all the time he's on the TV. You know what I mean? Most of the time.
And you have to watch the TV.
You don't have to, but like you sit and you don't have satellite. We only had radios, and most of us, I think, we used to, switch to, Monte Carlo or radio or something like that. Some kind of radio station that was famous, So we couldn't hear anything, only the radio we had, and the TV is him. So we don't, we didn't have internet before. You didn't have like telephones, nothing. It's only him. And that's it. So you sit and just watch him, and sometimes you turn the volume down so that you just watch what he's saying. I mean, what he's doing. Just laugh.
Yeah. So another question about the general feelings of most Iraqis. So you're saying that they wanted us to invade. They wanted to get rid of Saddam Hussein because their life was that bad.
Well, they wanted to get rid of him, with you or without you, anytime, because they didn't believe. They said nobody's gonna help us get rid of Saddam Hussein, only God, or American. You know what I mean? Because they didn't believe he's gonna leave, and even the people was afraid after Baghdad fall down. They thought that this is a joke. They were afraid. Still, there's some kind of fear inside the people that he's there. He was there. So you don't know what's going to happen, who's going to get information to him and things like that. So you're like in danger, still in danger,
Yeah.
until he's being captured.
Well, what's kind of cool is Hakeem's son, Yosef, was born shortly after we got there.
Exactly. May 2003.
And Yosef's going to be 20 years old here next month. I remember that because Hakeem and I met just before that, and I can remember him saying, I got to go back to my home. My wife is having a baby. I'm like,
yes,
what?
Exactly.
I say, you're too old to have a baby, Hakeem. Are you kidding me?
Thank you very much. I was in my 30s, man.
I know. So yeah, that was kind of neat. Right in the middle of all that, Yosef was born, and he's a wonderful young man today. So that's pretty cool. I think that's a good segue. I think that's great pre-war synopsis, Hakeem. I think we should take a break and go to our first sponsor.
Okay.
With World Voice Project.
What if the greatest commodity we have to give our children is the history of who we are? What if we as a nation knew the grit of patriotism is told from the eyes and the heart of those whose deeds we honor? World Voice Project uses cutting-edge technology to facilitate the gathering of these stories, with kiosks providing the gateway into the Hear Our Heroes database. We can gather these stories in an unparalleled way, on a scale that has never been done before. We provide video and audio recording capabilities to be used by veterans within the privacy of their own homes, connecting a museum with those that have served our nation.
Within 30 days of Jimmy getting to the unit, brand new out of school, Command and General Staff College, Jimmy was young and a vivacious leader, and a cavalryman at heart, which is what I loved about Jimmy and still do.
With these features, the voices and stories of our veterans never have to fall silent. Photos come alive.
This picture was me receiving the Silver Star from General Keane at the summer of 2003.
Audio is preserved. Personalities are captured and legacies are recorded, keeping them undistorted by time or agenda.
I was out on where we tested weapons. I was testing weapons for them. And when we had been overrun, there were some of the places that we were overrun that we hadn't regained.
Imagine capturing the history of a company, a battalion, a division. Imagine becoming a leader in oral and visual history preservation.
Phil, he joined the Navy, I think about 1942.
A center for searching and learning and connection. A showpiece for preserving the legacies of legends. What if a nation could learn what a patriot is by watching, hearing, seeing a real one? Together, we can bring their voices to future generations.
I don't regret 1 minute of it. I'd volunteer today if they would take me.
And you can find us at either worldvoiceproject.org, that's worldvoiceproject.org, or heroheroes.com. Again, that's heroheroes.com. Thanks, guys. That's great. Let's segue into the second portion of our show. And what we want to talk about now, Hakeem, is the invasion. and where we think that what we think about the invasion and how it went from your perspective when bombs started dropping and you were kind of, now yeah, the U.S. is actually coming, unlike Saddam really thought. Give us your perspective on that.
Well, once we found out that the story that we were told is true now, it's happening, we have mixed feelings of fear and joy. Your fear of like maybe you're gonna get killed and you're not gonna see the freedom that maybe your family is gonna feel that freedom. But at the same time, there's joy that this is happening now. Now we're gonna get rid of the most dictator in the history. I mean, the recent history as well. We can say, and I was for me personally, I was in joy, honestly, for that, feeling the freedom is coming to me and to my family. At least my kids now are gonna have and feel the freedom. We felt the freedom, actually. We felt the freedom after him, and I'm thanking the what happened. Sometimes you think that what happened is mistake. Some people say it's a mistake. No, it's not. We feel the freedom now. It's still hard times, but still hard times with freedom. The freedom that we felt it after him, the freedom to travel, the freedom to see anybody, the freedom to talk. You can talk about your government. You can talk about anyone in the world. You can, enjoy the life of going out of the country, because we were in prison. We're not allowed to go out. I mean, I don't know if I talked about that. I told you what, we're not allowed to leave the country. Never. Even if my wife has, like, if she is sick and wanted to leave the country, she cannot leave until she has some kind of, a guy has to escort her to go out. And we have to go all the way, like, to, I think, to him or some kind of like agencies under him to approve she's going to go and come back to the country. So that freedom only, I mean, is felt by us who are like under that regime. So it was a joyful, very joyful. I couldn't express it, of course, as an officer, but sure. Inside me, I was very happy that this is happening now.
That's interesting. So, what about your family? You've got your family in their house in Mosul, and you're going back and forth. You start hearing things happening. What about when the 101st shows up in Mosul? What? What was?
Well, during the war, I couldn't go back to my family. I was like stuck over there. So, but before the 101st came into Mosul, I think the air base commander just spread the word we have to leave to our homes. So we went back to our home, and during that night, or I can remember it, I think it was 11th coming to Mosul. I'm not sure. The first people who came, there was a lot of like looting at the time before the fall of Baghdad. Two first American who entered Mosul was lots of looting during. So I was like sitting all night long trying to protect my family at the home, and I think it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I saw, because our house is on the main road of Mosul. So as there was a big pickup truck with a big American flag coming in, and with some 4 soldiers, I think, American soldiers. And then behind them, like the Peshmergas, the cars from the Peshmergas. And I saw it, and I say, wow, now the Americans here. And honestly, this is like this is the start of my story, and how I met Americans because of the looting and because of this pickup truck. And by chance, they were stationed in a point because there was our house near a bridge across, some kind of crossroads bridge. So they stationed over there. And I don't know if you want me to continue how I met them.
Yes, of course.
So, this is 6 o'clock in the morning, and I told my family I'm going. I wanted to go to complain about the looting, what happened. And my family was so afraid, and they were fighting me. My father pulling me, my mother saying, "Don't go, they will kill you." And I said, "No, I have to do something. I have to go and do something over there." So I walked, to them, and there was nobody, no Iraqis in this. The streets were empty, just me walking in the middle of the road, going towards the Peshmergas, and Peshmergas was just looking at me. Who's this strange guy walking towards them? Nobody talked anything. Just let me pass by them.
Were you in uniform, or were you in just your
civilian? Civilian. So I walked past them, and the Americans this is the bridge, and the Americans was across the bridge. So I crossed the bridge, and then suddenly turned towards the Americans, and then the Peshmerga started pointing guns towards me. And nobody of them talked Arabic, I think, or they didn't want to talk Arabic. I don't know. So I talked to the American there. I said, "Hey guys, I want to talk to you." And there was, I think, a Major Ed. I think he's Special Forces. Ed, yes. And he just looked at me. He didn't say anything. He said, "Do you speak English?" And I said, "Yes." He says, "Come in." And they didn't allow me, the Peshmergas, but he said, "No, leave him. Let him go." So I came and talked to him, and I said, I introduced myself. I didn't tell him that, I'm a colonel. I told him "Hey, look, I came here just to talk to you about what happened yesterday on these days, about the looting on this area, and the clashes happened between the Kurds and the Arab in this." And he said, "Hey, you speak perfect English. We don't have anyone from the Peshmergas who speaks English. Please stay with us. Can you stay with us?" Yes. So I said, "What do you want me to do?" He says, "Can you please just help us?" Because there was some, afterwards it started chaos, cars coming, Kurds get hit, because there were, some of the people, I don't know, from Kurds, from Arabs, they were looting. And people are defending their homes and everything. So they get shot. They go back to the Americans. And I was the guy who was the mediator between the Americans and trying to solve the problems. So I stayed with him until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I told him, because they were eating, I got hungry. So I told him I want to go back to my family. And he says, "Can you come back?" And I said, "I would come back." He says, and he gave me his information and things like that. He said, "Just in case I moved, this is my information." But by that time, I think some big commander came with a truck and stopped by him, and they were talking, and he says, "I have to leave to the governor house or governor office." So I said, "Okay, I will go to my family and I will come back later." But when I came back, my family didn't allow me to. They just closed the doors and said, "No, you're not going." So, but
what was going through your family's mind the whole time that you were gone? That's a long time to be gone. They were terrified you were leaving, and then
they sent my brother. He was he saw me from far away, standing by the Americans, so he get relaxed, and he went back and he told my family. But my wife, she was in tears, crying, begging me not to go, because you don't know the perspective. They said America's gonna come and kill you and do anything to you and things like that. But when you face Saddam Hussein. And when I met them, it was like as easy as, I wish I could meet this guy, Major Ed, as he introduced. I don't know if it's his real name or not, but that's what he told me that. And at that time, this is the start of my connection with the American.
But it's still a pretty courageous thing to do. I mean, when you really think about it, that's a very courageous thing. I'm going to go out and I'm going to interact and I'm going to figure this out. You could have just sat in your home, biting your nails, going, "I'm scared," but
I had to do it. I had to do it.
You had to, yeah. And that's a courageous thing to do. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that part about how you initially got started. So that's awesome. So how did you end up coming to? How did you hear about Key West and how we started? We were blessed, ended up getting you. How did all that work out?
Well, afterwards, after he left and he gave me his information, I think I went to meet him, as he told me, in the airport, because he said we're gonna go in the airfield, Mosul's airfield. I remember Mosul's airfield. So I went to and I want to I wanted to go and meet him over there, and they told me, come back later on. We don't know who's Major S. So I came like 3 times or 4 times, and then they said, "Do you want to get hired as a translator with us?" The guys in the airfield, the Mosul airfield, and I stayed over there with them. I get hired over there, stayed with them, and by chance, Chris Petty came, and they said, "Do you want to go with this officer?" He wanted, I think, help in the city of Mosul. So I ended up going with Chris, and just clicked. Like we know each other like for 10 years. Me and Chris, we were very close friends, me and Chris. And so I helped him over there, and he said, "One day I will take you somewhere." He didn't tell me he's going to Key West, like Saddam's air base, which is my base.
It was your base long before it was our base.
Yeah. So he was like going in the road towards Saddam's air base, and I was thinking, where are we going? I have no clue he's taking me to, Key West. So until then, he turned towards, intersection from Mosul to the airfield, and then I said, "Are you taking me to Saddam's air base?" And he says, "And now it's our base." So I went through over there, and he took me into the area where you will like stationed. I think it was like our area, because it was Ba'ath Party headquarters, I think.
That's where we were, at Ba'ath Party headquarters, yeah.
Which it was next to the our officers' living area. So he took me over there, and I think I met you the first day over there.
That I remember.
It was a great time.
Yeah, Chris was a fantastic officer. I can see, I always knew you and Chris would hit it off just because of the way Chris is, and it was great meeting you. And you were my interpreter then for a year, right?
Yes.
It was kind of how we got to know each other.
Before we go any further, just really fast, what did your family think about you taking this job as a translator? Were they nervous, or were they like,
well,
yes?
They were very nervous. They didn't want it. They were saying it was all the stories of the what happens. Some I can admit that some people from the U.S. Army or U.S. military have done some mistakes, and your family hears these mistakes. You know what I mean? But you have a goal, which is helping your country. Maybe at that time, the people didn't know that. Maybe I got, Steve, how many times I wanted to be killed. For me working for the U.S. Army, but I had the goal, and you have to stick to your goal, is helping your people through these means, which is through the U.S. Army and through U.S. government.
Yeah. Do you mind me asking a personal question? You were talking about how little money you made while you were under Saddam.
Yes.
What was the U.S. Army paying you to be a translator?
Under your time?
Yeah. I don't know. It was always handled.
Honestly, I can't recall at that time. It's either $300 or $500. I'm not sure. So from $4 to that directly.
U.S. right?
Yeah, at that time, yes.
That's a good chunk of change compared to what you were making before, right?
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a big change.
Well, so you and I met. I don't know if you knew anything about the cavalry, but that's what we were, and we were given a mission to go out and help some of the local villages. I don't know if you remember some of those stories. So,
of course.
Can you talk a little bit about us going out to Australia and helping out that local sheikh?
You were in charge of like 3 or 4 villages?
Yes.
Yes. So we had to go like I think during the week, twice or 3 times to meet with the locals, like to give them the feeling that the U.S. Army didn't come over here to do as they thought. They're gonna kill them or something. They came here to help the people of Iraq. Mm-hmm. So this is one of the things that we used to do, like go to the locals, talk to them, and had the chance to interact between the officers, between the soldiers and the locals and these villages. You know what I mean? So I was with Steve and going to these villages. He used to come sometimes by his bird and land over there and let the kids look at it and things like that. I remember these times, yeah. And so when we used to go over there, I always advised Steve, don't drink from their water. Don't sit with your leg towards in their faces. And I think you used to take the tablets, I think. Mm-hmm. Some kind of tablet.
Doxycycline is what we used to take, yeah.
Exactly. So that you don't get sick or from the water.
Right.
I know that the water is boiled, but still, your stomach is not used to that kind of water because they take the water from wells over there. They were very good with us, honestly. They were. But they were asking so much demands, but still, they were very good with us, and we treated them well through the 217s through you. And I think we were distributing some kind of presents from the States. We used to get some kind of presents from the States as a gift or donors, and we used to distribute them to the families over there. So we had kind of like a family kind of environment between us, and they used to as well invite us for meals. We used to joke over there.
It was a lot of fun. I remember every time we'd sit down to meal, Hakeem would elbow me all the time about what I should or shouldn't be doing. Don't say that.
Because I want him to look like a good guy coming over there, and he's coming like in the American way. There's clashes between the American way and the Iraqi way, the clash of culture. So I should advise him to do that and tell him not to do that. Don't do that. Don't say that.
Well, how did I do?
You went fast. I mean, they loved you, the guys over there. Even after you left, they used to always ask about where's Steve? Where's Colonel Steve? But I told him he's gone.
He's gone. He left. Well, that's pretty amazing. It was a lot of fun. We used to drive around a lot. I remember when we were trying to get the swimming pool put together there at Key West. Do you remember that?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, we were.
Well, you were not in a good conditions. You didn't have, because of the looting that happened. There was no windows in the building they were lived, And I think
no electricity, no buildings, no nothing.
Even toilets, you didn't have the toilets until you have the porta johns, I think.
Right.
And then Chris was, looking for the blue stuff that he said, I want the blue stuff inside. You know what I mean?
To get rid of the smell, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
well, if you remember, though, that, we're probably now talking about June, July, when the temperatures are reaching 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and life is hard, right? It was tough back then.
Yes. We used to because it was like a start of things, because we didn't have anything. And suddenly, items started coming to Mosul. And we used to go, me and Chris and the other guys, to go and buy things from Mosul, you know what I mean? So we used to buy them in breaks, because soldiers use them all the time. It was very hot, and
super hot. And you were using all your gears with you all the time, you know what I mean? Yeah.
And
so
the hammers used to open the doors. You didn't have the fancy hammers now we have.
No, not at all. Just nothing fancy. The seats were like concrete, and you had to sit on them.
Exactly.
Driving through town. So,
hold on, you can't leave us hanging about the swimming pool.
We couldn't do it.
It never really happened. It's like everybody
was. No, it happened in 2000. I think 8.
Oh, 5 years later.
Years after.
Oh my gosh. Well, it was so blazing hot. All we want, they had this big, huge, 50-meter swimming pool.
Nothing happened to it. I mean, you can do it.
It was perfect. All we had to do was fix it and put water in it, and people could have at least enjoy it. But you know how the Army is. They were afraid that the lady soldiers were going to wear bikinis in front of Iraqis and stuff. I think that's why they didn't.
That's what happened. That's what happened. Honestly, in 2008, I think. I'm not sure. It's 2008 or 7. We were supposed, because I was in charge of these guys, so that we were supposed to clean. And one of the soldiers, wanted to share the work with the guys, and I told her not to do it. And they said, no, I'm going to work with these guys. So she sat on the floor, and she was scrapping, you know what I mean, on the floor, trying to clean it. And all the guys were just watching her and not scrapping. And I was very angry because of the guys. And I told the soldier, you have to leave now, because I'm not going to get any work done with you sitting over there.
Go figure.
Yeah.
You know how that is. So, yeah, it never got done. And that's all we wanted was a swimming pool. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the way life was back then. It was hard. Now, so our year was up pretty quick, and then in came 317 CAF, right? And
yes.
Did you end up working for them at all after I left, or how did that work?
Well, as when you left, I became the airfield manager.
Airfield manager, right? And
also the security manager for the base. So I was in charge of all the Iraqi guys who was in the towers or on the main gate as well. And at the same time, I was in charge of base operation as well inside. We used to do all the work for all the units over there inside. So we worked over there at the 317 CAF, and also Stryker, I think, came with Colonel
That's right.
Yeah, yep, Stryker
that's
came,
right. Yep.
Colonel Reed, and after Colonel Reed, I think they moved him to Balad because they needed them in Balad. So we got now Lieutenant General Becker, who was Colonel at that time, 28 artillery.
Let me ask you this, Hakeem. What was the how did you see the U.S. forces change from the time we were in 2003 to the time you left in 2008? What kind of changed in there from your perspective, other than units and commanders and things like that, but kind of the U.S. Tactics or the approach that they took with respect to the Iraqis and what we were trying to achieve back then, which, obviously we started getting the insurgency late in 2003 and early 2004. And then you dealt with the insurgency pretty much for a long time after that.
With General Petraeus in 2007, we had the, I think, what do you call it? Siege, I think.
The surge?
The surge.
Yeah.
Yes, the surge. That was one. I played a good part on it as well because, nobody wanted to do work for the U.S. at that time because of the fear outside the base, and I was like, I had to do it as well outside the base because of the fear. So when the the base commander comes and asks me to do something, like stable some kind of checkpoints for the police or for the army outside for the Iraqis, most of it, to set it up outside the base, I was the one to do it with my guys.
Did it seem like the U.S. changed their approach significantly?
Of course.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed. I honestly, to tell you the truth, I enjoyed the time that 101st was at the time. There was, that there is real fighting. There was real work towards the people, works towards the freedom, towards settling the people down, interacting with the locals, getting to know the locals. The people were as well, felt it's better working. Even I know that because afterwards we used to have so many people coming and say, what happened? Why did they change? What happened in the strategy of the U.S.? So they don't know, as a local people or normal people don't know how the politics changed the strategy. I think this is what happened. And it's
totally.
Afterwards as well, we used to have from going from the guys, into the National Guard, I think he used to come. And these guys, most of them, with respect to all the guys who worked over there, but, totally different type of mentality and work standards and ethics and everything. There's change.
You're talking about the difference from like the 101st to the National Guard folks. Yeah.
Because there was the interaction between the 101st and the people was like at their highest. People still remember General Petraeus. People still remember you in the local villages over there, and we felt that. Afterwards, even when General Becker came, he was very good. General Becker, Lieutenant General Becker, he was very good as well in continuing that path towards because one of the people that I honestly respect and dear very much is Lieutenant General Becker, because the first day he came, he told me, I want to sit with you and tell me what is outside, what was happening. Because Colonel Reed, and I think after Colonel Reed came for a very short time, Colonel Sleva, I think, maybe 2 months or 3 months, Colonel Sleva as well. They have some kind of QRF guys going outside the base whenever we used to get, in 2004, we used to get lots of hits into the base. And QRF never go after at that time. They were not going after the guys because we can see them from the towers. And we can tell the QRF that these guys are hitting us from that point, but nobody goes from there. But instead, QRF, yes.
QRF.
Yeah, I think
quick
response.
Quick reaction force. Yeah.
Yes.
Quick reaction force. Yeah. So it was like an entity of 20 or 30 soldiers who were dedicated, just sit there and wait until something happened, and then they take that force and go after.
So the towers tell us where the location from where we get hit. We call the base, which is and they direct the QRF. They should direct the QRF to go after them. You know what I mean? But at that time, I think we didn't do it. So when instead of that, they used to go. They went to make get rides what do you call that? Attacks on the houses at night. So it's from the settlement, peaceful environment in 2003 into attacks on the house, on the villages, thinking that the people over there are attacking the base. And I shared my view. I said, this is wrong. You shouldn't do that. But I think he didn't listen to me. So when Colonel Becker came, he told me, tell me what's happening. And I said, you shouldn't do all these attacks on the villages because we're going to get these guys cooperating with the insurgents
Right.
against us. You know what I mean? So if you hear somebody is attacking us, I told him this, and I told him, because he was artillery, so I told him just have flares. Tell the guys, we are here. We can see you if you can do it. And he did that the whole time he was there. We never get attacked. I mean, we got minimum attack afterwards. So he was a good listener. As I tell him about going after someone, he listens to me. Not to get people of Iraq don't see that. I'm defending them, but in the mean that help both sides, the Americans and the Iraqis at the same time. So the Americans don't get hit by these guys, insurgents. At the same time, the people don't feel that these guys came to attack us or kill us at home. So I was like the mediator between both sides, and I hope that I have succeeded in some of these missions.
Well, what I find is that demonstrates your level of success is, you notice Kelly, he kept saying "we," as if he was part of the team with the commander that he was advising. And he always did that for me. He would always act like he was part of our team, not just an interpreter in the middle or somewhere. He was actually on our team, and that was kind of a special thing about Hakeem.
I never felt other than that, and even the people who I worked with never, showed me other than that.
Which is why I thought was really cool about Hakeem. I talked earlier about the nuance that he had. Understanding the Iraqis, obviously, because he is one, but he understood Americans just as good as any American, which I thought was why I thought he was so special. And obviously we've been friends ever since. So,
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask what you saw when you first went in, and then when you left. What were your thoughts going in? What were your thoughts when you left? How had things changed? I'd love to hear your perspective. Stephen, when Stephen got in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a way loaded question. This is about Hakeem and not me. But I think it's good perspective. Obviously we thought we believed in what we were doing, not just because of WMD and all the other things that they try to hit the Americans with. We as Americans have always believed in freedom, and we knew Iraqis were not free, and we thought it was important to give them an opportunity for that. So when we went in, my perspective was we're going to do whatever it takes to help the U.S. succeed in freeing Iraq, and we did that. We ended up neutralizing the targets and killing the people that we believe need to be killed. One shooting at us, but we never killed anybody beyond that. We went in, we took what we needed to take, how we needed to take it. Once we got up to Mosul, we wanted to integrate with the Iraqi people and figure out a way for them to take over for their own freedom. And I thought we did that pretty well, at least in my time, my first few months there, up until the insurgency started. Number one, there was a big, press to get Saddam Hussein because we hadn't got him yet. And number two, there was the insurgency that had started taking hold that was changing the way we had to go about business in Iraq. It went from, I think, was a relatively happy time, like when Hakeem and I first met, May, June. The fighting was over. We didn't like
Peace.
it seemed like peace at the time. Yeah. It's like we were all getting to know each other. Hakeem was introducing us to people. We were basically going throughout the city unobstructed, learning about the Iraqi people. We started bringing in money and changing their money supply and trying to like start changing and handing over things to them. And then the insurgency started. And that's where things got hard. And I'm not convinced that we handle that very well as Americans. I think as Americans, we kind of, or at least the military, we kind of got like, all of a sudden you start becoming untrustful, just like the insurgents, that was their whole goal, was for them to get us to not trust the Iraqis and vice versa.
Exactly.
Kind of like the U.S. government right now. But, it's like they wanted us to have this level of distrust so that we wouldn't be successful and hand over this peaceful, transition. And it was hard. Yeah, it was really hard. But I think, at least for me, I saw this huge difference in my year in Iraq when I was there. We went from game on, fighting and free do whatever we had to neutralize the Iraqi military, to, what was it, Hakeem? Probably 3 months there in the middle or so, when we kind of were just like, oh, it's over, man. We're done. And then kind of like my last 3 months there, it was, they were killing people left and right, suicide bombs and ambushes and a lot of really gnarly things going on. Well, by the time I left, we weren't in a good place militarily. So yeah, that's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question, but I love how that highlights that the two of you really had this. It really was a partnership. It really was a team. You both had the same goals in mind, and that was peace.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't about guts and glory at all. This was about what can we do to make life better for the Iraqi people.
100%.
It was a team.
Yeah. So, Hakeem, tell me what it was like there in and around the insurgency time when you knew, I got to get out of here. What was going on? What led you to the decision to leave Iraq and become a refugee?
Well, it didn't start from that time. It started from, I think, during your time. I think as you started, insurgency started at that time. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you used to come, above my house. Do you remember that as well? By your bird and trying to see if there's something wrong or something like that. By that time, I started getting lots of hits coming to my, waiting for me outside my the base, tried to hit me, and I got info from the I think S2 for the brigade.
S2, yeah, brigade. Yeah. S2, yeah. That's the intelligence officer, brigade. Yes, S2.
To tell me not to leave the base a lot because there are so many people trying to get you. So I think they are getting some kind of people, detained, and my name is coming, around. Because I was in charge of lots of things in the base, like even the CIP, I don't know, I think it's used to call CIP, CIP, the guys who were running the money for the Iraqis.
Oh, yeah.
CIP, isn't it?
Something I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah.
So I was I was the guy as well in charge with the Americans about how to get the locals interacted with the, and distribute that money and things like that. It's not my decision, but I just tell them where to put that, advise them where to put that money into which, where areas. So my name started coming a lot, working for the Americans. I'm a traitor, come from Iraqi officer to working with the Americans, trying to help them, trying to get us. So I had like 3-4 times in the way to Mosul, like in your time, just going outside the base, people waiting for me at night or whenever I go. And after you left, one of the guys who used to work for us, I think he was convinced by the insurgents to get me out of the base. So he told me, "Sir, nobody knows me. Come and, sit with me in the car, and I will take you home and, to your home." So in the morning, I said yes, but I know that there was an ambush on me. So I told him while we are like just they wanted to leave, I told him I'm not coming out with you. And that time they didn't have the cell phones was not the bad reception at them. But my assistant told me, "Can I go instead of you?" And I said, "If you wish, but I don't advise you to go." But he insisted to go home. So he got home riding, and he was get angry, that guy. He was very upset and saying, "Why didn't you come, sir? Let me take you home," and things like that. And this is one of the things that I cannot forget, because there was a very bad one. So after we left the base, coming out to the intersection of Mosul, there was a car waiting for us over there, So they started chasing the car, and their target, they were shooting at the guy sitting next to the driver, thinking I was the guy, but was my assistant over there. So my assistant didn't get hit. He was, because he kneeled down, but the guy was sitting behind the driver, got in his shoulder, because it was like this is hitting it. So while he was kneeling, my assistant, he told him to pull to the desert next, to the right, and he was going into the right. There was a village over there. And he went to the village, and they were after him, but there was too much dust. They didn't see it, where was the car going, until he went to that village, and he requested their help, and they assisted him, and they took him from the village to the base. I think they took the guy by chopper to Balad because of hospital, I think, because of his hit in the. So, one of the things that I can recall that, this guy, he tried to sell me to the insurgents, but he never worked for me anymore. But this is one of the hits that I got a lots of times. And afterwards,
so was your family still in Mosul at this time?
Yes, but this is what I was going to talk about as well. At the same time, because I was not leaving the base, they started going towards my family. Leaving them some bullets under the door, hitting the door, because our doors are big, steel doors. So they hit the doors by their AK-47s, and sent the letters. And my brother as well, they hit his car they tried to kill him, but it was not, I think, a killing. It was a warning. You have to leave. It's either Hakeem, come leave the Americans, or we will kill you. Otherwise, sending me messages throughout that, Hakeem, you have to leave Mosul, because of the attacks that coming to my family and my wife. My wife went to her father's house, and lots of emotions. So at that time, I think Colonel Becker said, "Hey, you gotta leave Mosul now." So he took me under by convoy to Mosul from the base, and my family. They took my family into the airfield, Mosul airfield, and from there they took us by as well in the convoy to Erbil. And from Erbil, there was some kind of, some kind of talks between the, I think, 2-8, Colonel Becker, and the Special Forces of Kurdistan, of Peshmergas, to take me inside Erbil. And I was under the protection of Erbil over there. But still, I was like, because Erbil was not like that very safe at the same. Still, they can get inside Erbil and gets me. That's why when I think in 2009 I decided I have to leave Iraq and go to Turkey, because my name was in every poll of in some areas in the polls of the street polls. Get this traitor.
So you had the equivalent of like the thing that they would sticker that they would put on a light pole that said,
Yes.
"Get this traitor Hakeem
Yes.
asleep." Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's terrible. Well, I mean that sums it up pretty well. Well, Kelly, we've got to go to our second sponsor. You ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Let's do it. Our second sponsor is Fjord Films.
Alrighty. Creating products that connect, inspire, and leave a lasting impression, Fjord Films International specializes in capturing histories, from personal legacies to community legacies. Each story is produced and delivered in a compelling, dignified, private, beautiful way. Professionally filmed personal documentaries restore a human connection in a very real and palpable way, and are delivered in multiple mediums for maximized preservation. Not into being filmed? No problem. Fjord Films International also provides exclusive access to the use of the revolutionary Tell Me technology. Tell Me technology is a powerful tool built specifically to privately capture and protect memories in all forms, anywhere. It can be done in the privacy of your own home, no audience allowed, or used by museums, assisted living facilities, expeditions, and more to collect, archive, and highlight memories in all forms through kiosks. The stories matter. Fjord Films International. Discover, connect, belong. Learn more at www.fjordfilms.com.
Yeah, that's fjordfilms.com, my favorite place for sure. Heck yeah. Hey, Hakeem, man, we wanted to talk a little bit now about your transition from Iraq to being a refugee.
Okay.
And your basically your fight to try to become a U.S. citizen, because a lot of people don't understand that the contract between the U.S. military and the locals was you assisted the U.S. military for 1 year, and then you were eligible for an SIV visa, a special immigrant visa, right?
Yeah.
And then you served the United States military for at least 5+ years, right? And your visa right now has been held up for the last 20 years or 15 years, and still haven't been able to bridge that gap with the bureaucracy. So tell us a little bit about your transition to Turkey, refugee status, and how that went for you.
Well, as I mentioned before, that we moved from being in Erbil to being refugees in Turkey. And at the beginning, we suffered a lot because it was a big transition. We didn't know the language. When we thought that I'm going to get the visa easily to the States, because which one? I mean, going to get the visa, I mean, more than me. I know I have worked in multi projects, did a lot for the U.S. Army, for the U.S. government. Suffered a lot with them, get hit a lot. My name is everywhere. And even like during the ISIS time, they came to my house. My father was only the only person over there because he was like afraid they're gonna steal our house, so he stayed over there, and they were looking for me. They never, you never know when they're gonna come and find me. You know what I mean? So we thought that they have, forgot about me, but that we're talking about 2014, 15, 16. You know what I mean? Still like very recent. So I thought my visa is going to be the easiest one of all the guys who worked for the US. It turned to be most of the guys who like worked for a company working as a subcontractor for the US, got the visa, got the citizenship. And I'm still looking at them and calling them, every day and say, hey, why don't you come? And for me, I mean, I don't know, honestly, I don't know what to say, honestly, because they say, you still there? And I said, yes, I'm still there after all these years. I never know why. I don't know what's going on. And, people changes, like government changes, and I'm still here. Even regulation changes, and I'm still in the same position, never changed. I applied. My children was like, I think 6 years or 7 years old. Yeah, and now 20s.
Now they're 20s.
Yeah, in medical college in 20s, and I don't know what to say. I don't honestly. Sometimes they say, who. And sometimes they tease me, say, we're going to go, and he's still over here. They say, wait for you. And some people tease me at the same time and say, well, you see, they worked for them and they left you. This is very, very big for me. And I mean, I was strange the other day when I saw I don't say anything like that. Some of the Afghanis worked for the Americans. But they got in the airplane and went straight directly to the States. And I'm trying to take the legal way, going through all the process that they are saying we have to come legally over here. I'm doing it legally, but I'm not. I have so many recommendations from General Petraeus, General Becker, General Hodges, you for recommendations from you. So many overall. I mean, you are the only person who stuck with me. All these years, like a brother. We're like brothers. So I have so many recommendations from all the officers. I have medal. I think I told you I have the medal from the Army. I have so many coins from the Army. I'm the only person who was allowed inside the base with a arm, pistol. I had, I think pistol inside with me. So I was the only person. And you can allow, you trust me inside your bases, and you don't trust me to come inside
with a pistol, and they won't trust you to come into the country. Yeah.
I've even went into the operation rooms with them. These guys, honestly, with the 101st, I was everywhere. I was allowed to go anywhere inside over there. But that much trust I had. But
well, it's. This isn't a Hakeem problem. This is a U.S. problem. And it was highlighted during Afghanistan withdrawal last year that the U.S. obviously didn't honor the services of, I think there's a number of about 2,000 Afghanis right now who served the U.S. military honorably while in Afghanistan. And now they're left stuck in Afghanistan, as you know, helping me trying to get these guys out of the country. And now they're in the same boat you are, where it's a U.S. problem that they don't honor and do the homework to honor those who have served the U.S. military. But we're going to remedy that. We're going to remedy that.
After, I applied, and I was like, oh man, I mean, 40, 42, something like that, for 3 years old. And now,
And look at you now. What are you, like 70 now?
so, I mean, I don't know. Some people told me, why don't you go to the border and just cross I said, what do you think? I mean, I'm going to go to Mexico and cross the border from
Yeah.
there after all these years?
Yeah.
You're
You're not going to do that.
I want to come honestly. I want to be honestly. I want someone to appreciate what I've done, not to treat me like this. Especially the Army knows what I did. All the people who work
100%
with me, I'm sorry, they know what I did. But the problem is the people who are making the decision about my visa. They don't know me. They just see paperwork. That's what it kills me, honestly. Sometimes I get very hard feelings about that.
Yeah, I don't blame you, because it's not hard for them to pick up a phone and call a person like me or Jennifer Petraeus or Chris Petty or any of the rest of them. They can call anybody and get what we feel about your bona fides, which is who you are and what you're all about. So it's unfortunate, and I'm sorry it's gone that way for you, Hakeem, but we're resolute in getting you here. Tell us a little bit about the last 5 or so years since you've been trying to get this done. What have you done and where have you gone, and why are you still wanting to do this?
I think my place is in the United States, not here. This is it. Short story.
That's it. Short story.
My place is not here. My place is in the United States. I mean, I have more friends everywhere. I mean, in the States, more than I said. I told my wife, if I will go to each state, and each state I will have a friend on it. In each state, I will have a friend of it. From all the years that I worked in the base, I have met so many soldiers, so many officers, through my years. And what I have, conveyed to you is like 10% of what I did over there. Honestly, it was like you don't feel the struggle that we're over there. Every day struggle with the people, with the locals, with the problems, with the construction, everything we were doing over there was a struggle, but we managed it. We were trying to get that mission successful, and we did make it succeed. But the problem is people are left, unappreciated by some people for unknowingly, or I don't know what's in there. They don't appreciate. This is what I felt sometimes from the units, because when you used to have units changing, from one unit to another, you have to establish a new, relation with these guys. So at the first, they think, who's this guy that he knows everything in the base, and like everybody likes him, everybody knows him, and things like that. They don't get it until they know you. Because I used to have like dinner parties. It's not parties, like barbecues. You remember that we used to have barbecues. Like we even had some kind of smoker club, full moon smoker club. Like we got every night we have some kind of fire pit. And we talk politics and everything with all. Sure. And every soldier who is passing by my building sit with us and talk about us. Some kind of, made the life inside the base, more easy for the soldiers as well. I was the only building have some kind of flowers, garden, fountains. I made that inside the base for the building, so that the people feel, they say, we have a garden over here, in the desert.
Right.
So
do you
I feel the pain on that.
Yeah. Do you think there's a lot of politics involved in this?
You tell me. This is the only question. I mean, this is the only thing that I can think about. I don't know what is it. It's either politics, or either someone is not appreciating what happened, or not understanding, It's like the people now, they don't understand what happened before, so that they don't care, honestly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just went to the war. They don't feel it. They don't feel what happened over there. So the person who is in charge of making the decision, yes, you come or not, don't know you, don't think you have done something. So I don't know.
What I'm hearing is, from what I know about you, Stephen, and from what I'm hearing from you, Hakeem, and having heard you share your story, loyalty is a sacred thing to both of you.
Of
That's
course.
part of the core of who you are. And so you not only loyal to your people, you're loyal to each other. You're wanting to bring that same loyalty to the U.S. And whether this is a political thing or not a political thing, whether, people, there's this discussion about illegal aliens, let them in, not, make people come and leave it. At the end of the day, you are the kind of human being that, as an American citizen, I want here in the United States. End of story.
Appreciate it. I mean, the loyalty played a big part on making each other safe in that environment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we didn't trust each other, we couldn't have worked. He couldn't have taken me to all these places around with me having armed, and he's armed, and I was riding behind him. I could have done anything, but he trusted me. He trusted that person behind him, and he trusted him when he advised him not to do this or this. Him and all the all the officers, because I have worked with most of the base commanders over there. All the base commanders who came to QS, I worked with them, and all of them had the same interaction between me and them. I had loyalty, I had freedom of talk. We used to have lots of meetings. I was the only Iraqi who is allowed into the meetings of the mayor meetings. Only Americans who comes into it. I was the only Iraqi who was allowed into these meetings, And I say, I know how comes this kind of person is, don't imagine me, Hakeem, talking about himself. It's like a person coming into these meetings, coming into the base, living in the base, helping the Americans in every aspect of life from the morning until night, and guarding the towers of the base that you have American soldiers sleeping on so that they can go to their missions every day safely. That level of trust has to be appreciated.
100%. Yeah. Well said. Yeah, Hakeem, you made an interesting point by saying that you're worried about people hearing this, how you and I have been very cautious over the last 20 years about your security. And I'm glad you're actually being more open about it, because I do, number one, think they need to hear your story. Number two, I think it's removed enough now that maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that anybody would hold this against you, specifically here in the United States. But I don't know, what the situation is with some of the other radical folks in Iraq right now. But something tells me you're going to be fine.
Well, I hope that I'm going to be fine, but I was, so afraid to tell my story lots of times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's enough. I think it's enough of that. I need to share my story. This is one of the things that, I'm just saying that, my life was all about fear. Even the books that Jimmy has wrote, my name is not mentioned on it.
We were very careful not to do that.
Yes.
Right.
Fear is still, that's a part of my life. But this is one of the things that if I wanted to go to the States, I wanted to, go around like in colleges or like in seminars and talk about this. This is a story people in young generation has to hear and interact with the people with their questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you're right. They need to hear this story because it's a courageous one. And I don't, like I was saying earlier, I don't think the younger generation understands what it's like to live under what you were living. All they hear is, Iraq war was a mistake. Why did we do that? Didn't do anything for us. I've never thought it was a mistake. specifically because not just because I lived through it, but I've known a lot of Iraqis who benefited from not being under that rule.
Too many people died for that freedom. Too many people died for that freedom. Too many people injured for that freedom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe now they say, no, we shouldn't have done, but at least something they should have on both sides, Iraqis and Americans. Too many people, so they have to have respect for the lives and the suffering of all these people who worked to get that freedom.
100%.
Afterwards, the goal was honest goal was like some people will fight for that freedom, but what happened afterwards is not the fault of who did it. You know what I mean? We gave you the freedom. It's up to you guys. How do you run your freedom? You know what I mean?
100%. 100%. That's well said. So what I want to know a little bit, Hakeem, is tell me about your family right now.
Well, I had Joseph and Kamar in medical school. Kamar is in her fifth year. She's almost finished now, fifth year. So she's gonna go be a doctor next year, like stage doctor or something like that. Something. She worked in the hospitals now. Joseph is, following her, and the guy who you met. I mean, who was born in your year. Now he's gonna be a doctor as well. And I have my little Lula, Lillian. She is 6 years old now.
Lillian.
Yeah.
I remember when you wanted to call her Rose. You even texted me before she was born. I'm going to call her Rose. Oh, yeah, I love that name, man. And then he changed it on me.
Well, because we didn't get the Rose, but I told my wife's brother's daughter. I called her Rose, so she's Rose now. So I didn't leave that name. I gave it to someone.
That's awesome. And you're still in Turkey, right?
Yes.
So what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about what we're trying to achieve here with you. Is there's a new Welcome Corps program that just started this year that is designed to get people like you visa to the United States. It's a requiring of me to become your sponsor, and I have to find 4 more sponsors, which I already have. Kelly is one of them. That is, I have to raise a certain amount of money in order for me to sponsor you and your family to get you a visa here in the United States. In order to get away from the SIV, which is the special immigrant visa, we're going to go after this new program and get you and your family here to the United States. So what I'm asking our audience to do is go to our GoFundMe page and help us get Hakeem here. We've raised somewhere in the neighborhood of $8,000 or $9,000, and I need another $8,000 or $9,000 to get Hakeem here. And that's what I'm asking our audience to do, is go to our GoFundMe page, which is going to be at the bottom of your page, and donate to our cause to get Hakeem and his family here in the United States. We plan to bring him here to Nashville, and we'll get him integrated. And as you can see from who Hakeem is, there's no problem integrating him to be an American, because he is every bit as an American as you and I are. And I believe that from the bottom of my heart.
Always felt like that as well. Always.
I've felt like that since I met you, and the day I met you, Hakeem, and we're not going to quit until you get here.
Hopefully.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Look, the main thing is, I hope that, the audience understand the struggle we have. The U.S. Army and all the soldiers and officers who, did in that war. And at the same time, the people who helped them in that, on land, who helped that mission to be successful. And don't forget that what you did is a great thing for your government, for your country. All the freedom that has taken by the Iraqis now is priceless.
Well, but yeah, like you said, you're the main part of that, of helping us achieve that mission. So we thank you, Hakeem, from the bottom of our heart for that. And you and I will always be brothers.
Always. I told my family if I'm gonna die, I want to be buried in the United States if I get the visa.
Yeah, you're going to be buried here. That's going to happen, my friend.
Okay.
It's going to happen. Well, thank you for joining us. I've got to break to our third sponsor, if that's okay. Our third sponsor is Precision Air Power. Precision Air Power. We are a certified FAA Part 145 repair station. We offer a variety of aircraft engine overhauls, cylinder restoration, and numerous other general aviation services. Precision Air Power was established in 1978. We're going on 45 years. We've continued to deliver superior service with the highest quality and integrity. Our competition rates and prompt service will give you the best value for your time and money. We do complete engine overhauls. We do top-end overhauls. We do fuel injection. We do ignition systems, carburetor overhauls. We even do prop strike inspections. Visit precisionairpower.com today for your aviation needs. That's precisionairpower.com. All right, guys, that's it. All I need is Hakeem here, and I'm happy.
Appreciate it, man. I wish that as well. I've heard about Nashville, chicken. I would like to go with you. Some
Nashville
chicken.
hot chicken. You like hot,
exactly.
Right? Yeah. Nashville hot chicken. You got it. Well,
Hakeem,
you'll be
I
here
meant what I
soon enough,
said.
my friend.
I meant what I said. You are the kind of human being that I want here. And to listen to you talk about freedom and what that means to you and your life before freedom and your life after you got a taste of freedom and being here, like there's nothing I want more than to see you here, see you and your family here. It's been such an honor to talk with you and to hear you so eloquently and compelling share your story. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time and appreciate what you are doing for me. Thank you for your help and for all your assistance. Whether it happens or not, I appreciate all the, you're doing for me, all the things you are doing for me.
Gonna happen, okay?
It's gonna happen. Well, I was like, I'm still insisting in coming, so
I've promised you, remember?
Yes, I know that.
You got it. Well, thanks, Hakeem. You have a good night, and
you too.
Thanks for everybody for listening. WorldVoiceProject.org. Come visit us today.
Have a good one.
Take care, guys. You bet.
Eagle 6, Sabre 6, spot report.